VyFi is a really cool project that is built on Cardano. It's built for the novice cryptocurrency trader or someone that hasn't even gotten into cryptocurrencies, all the way to the really experienced that has been using Uniswap for ages. I did a previous interview with Jack Cohen and Stephen Ward that talks all about the project, where they're up to and what they're exactly trying to do. In this video, I'll be going through an overview of the VyFi ecosystem with Stephen, and he explains every last aspect of the ecosystem. It's pretty cool. If you haven't seen the original interview, please check out the interview in the top right-hand corner. You'll see a link there and you can watch the entire interview. Otherwise, let's get into this really cool overview of how VyFi works.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast.
All right, so I have Steve Ward from the VyFi project coming in on this episode to talk a little bit about the actual ecosystem, which I got quite confused with, especially when you go through the white paper deeper and have a look at some of the other diagrams that are in there. But for anyone else that is really looking at the project and want to understand how the whole ecosystem or the Vi ecosystem works, this is where you need to go. This is what you need to look at first and basically just need to understand. And fortunately, I have Stephen here to go through this entire process and explain each and every one of the individual parts so that all of us know exactly what's going on and how we are going to benefit from this system. So Steve, thank you again for joining me on the podcast. And thank you for
thank you so much for having me, Pete.
All right, let's get into this.
Let's get into this from the top. So our ecosystem is built as principally a two-layer decentralized exchange. I'll try and avoid using sort of short terms and jargon in this as well, so that particularly for your listeners that are newer to the crypto space. Now, for those that are watching on YouTube, you'll have the image in front of you of what it is that I'm referring to now. This is our ecosystem, and this ecosystem is essentially made up of a decentralized exchange in the middle, and what's called a liquidity aggregator at the top. And at the bottom, we have our investment trust. Now, the reason we've developed it like this is so that we can have a structured path for people who are new to crypto to move between the layers, either from the top to the middle or from the bottom to the middle, right? And then all of these layers share profits through to the holders of our token through our bar mechanism. So just to briefly describe what a liquidity aggregator is, and I'll quickly show you the scary picture just for a bit of fun.
Sure.
Here is the big one, and the liquidity aggregator is our auto harvester here, right? Now this looks all very big and confusing, but the reason it looks so big and confusing is because we're trying to make it as simple for users as possible, wherein they just deposit their ADA. We take that ADA and we yield farm with it, and then we send that income that has been farmed back to the people that have invested into our auto harvester. So it's essentially just an aggregated yield farming machine. So we can go through and do it together and not have users individually have to worry about each and every liquidity pool, worry about each and every outcome, worry about how each and every coin is doing, worry about payouts, worry about impermanent risk, worry about fundamentals. We're trying to take all of that away from the user, right?
And it's completely managed by the platform itself.
Yes. So that's where our neural net, which is our essentially our AI machine, gets involved. So our AI machine is constantly scanning the market to look for what are the best risk for rewards across different farms on the Cardano ecosystem, right? And these, the auto harvester will automatically update itself to match the risk that the user wants to go for, right? Based on what the AI is telling it. So if a user wants a low risk, they would enter our low risk pool, and that would mostly be focused on stable coins. So the return is going to be lower, but the actual fluctuation to the money that's in there is going to be less, right? And then would have the medium and the high risk pools, which in turn will have more and more higher risk tokens involved. So there will be more risk to that base value, but in return, there'll be a higher income.
Right. So just to clarify for our listeners and audience, this is all coming in from other liquidity pools on different decentralized exchanges. Is that correct?
That is correct, as well as lending platforms such as Meld or Liquid. So we will be providing liquidity to wherever the AI says that we have the best options for the tokens in which that pool is focused on.
Brilliant.
So, for example, our low risk pool would be focused on stable coins. That's not just going to be looking at stable coins on our DEX. That's going to be looking at stable coin opportunities across platforms in the Cardano ecosystem.
Cool. Is there any chance that it could hook into bridges over to Ethereum at some point in time?
We would love to be able to integrate that into our auto harvester, but this auto harvester itself is being kept entirely in ADA to access the ADA ecosystem. What we would be interested in doing in the future, and in fact, we've already built a shell of this auto harvester on the Binance blockchain as just a bit of a trial run. But we would love to be able to implement it into other blockchains with this same technology so that we could actually be feeding more income from different blockchains back to our bar on the ADA ecosystem, so that we can take users from other ecosystems and then use that to bridge them back into our core fundamental Cardano ecosystem.
Okay. Bring in more users from everywhere else. Brilliant. Okay, keep going.
That's the idea. Well, from within that, there is of course the share to the bar, right? So every week or so, we're going to be farming a certain amount from all this liquidity that we have collected from users, right? 15% of that liquidity that has been collected is going to be sent through to our bar, which means it's sent through to the holders of our token, right? And the way that that takes place is that we exchange all of that farm that has been collected, and then we deposit that farm, we swap that farm out for VyFi, and then we distribute it amongst the holders of VyFi, or the holders that are deposited into our bar, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Now, this works in two ways. First of all, it functions in that it allows an upwards buying pressure on the VyFi coin, because we are bringing in farm from multiple ecosystems across Cardano and using that income to purchase VyFi. And secondly, and I would say more importantly, is that it allows us to keep an income stream that isn't just from within our ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. And I find that a lot of ecosystems in crypto suffer from the issue wherein that their income, or the income that they provide, requires more money to be funneled in from the bottom, more people to deposit money into that ecosystem so they can keep moving it through, right? Whereas I wanted to try and create an ecosystem where, rather than keeping money from within and reshuffling, we're bringing in money from without to redistribute.
Gotcha.
Right? To have more of a classic business model in that sense. Now, I should also add, 15% might sound like a little bit of farm. So what would be the advantage for the users who still want to engage with the auto harvester when they're giving up 15% of their farm? Which is a perfectly reasonable question, right? The auto harvester provides two principal advantages for users. The first is for the users that aren't very experienced in crypto and aren't confident in managing their own risk across multiple liquidity pools, right? And that, I reckon, particularly in an ecosystem like Cardano, is going to be a fairly regular experience, because we are trying to onboard as many new users as possible. Secondly, the auto harvester gives you access for a small amount of money to multiple liquidity pools. So as a user who wants to be able to, who only has, let's say 200 Cardano, it's very difficult to take 200 Cardano and then separate that between 5 separate farms. Right? Because as a result, you've now only got 30, or not even 50 Cardano in each farm, right? 35 or so. Now, that puts you in a position wherein you can't access a lot of instruments that you would be able to if you had a larger pile of money to work with. And that's essentially the entire core concept of a liquidity aggregator. By accessing a larger pile of money, you in turn become more powerful because you get access to more risk.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the value proposition in exchange for that fee that goes to the bar.
Sounds like it's well worth it, really.
Yeah, well, it's the same reason people use hedge funds instead of investing themselves, or the same reason people use a superannuation fund instead of a self-managed superannuation fund.
Get someone else to do it for you.
That's it. Now, let's take that down to the next layer, though, which is our own DEX. So we're going to have our own decentralized exchange, which will allow users to swap between different currencies on the Cardano network. And of course, they'll be able to deposit and farm VyFi themselves, right? This is going to be a classic DEX in the sense that you think of it when you think of Uniswap, when you think of PancakeSwap, any of those, right? Now, what is making us different is that we're actually hosting an educational layer that moves you between the auto harvester and through to the DEX. So for people that feel uncomfortable with using those systems themselves and are using our auto harvester, if they're interested, they can access our VyLearn, which is going to be an LMS, which actually teaches users how to engage with these systems step by step so that they can become comfortable. And when they feel comfortable, they can then access that on their own accord, right?
Very cool.
Because it's the classic case of give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish.
Yep.
Right? Like we would love to be taking a 15% share off everybody forever, but also recognizing that people who learn how to do it themselves are going to be able to do it better for themselves, maybe not all the time, but definitely a portion of the time, because they'll be able to create a custom strategy that's useful for them. Right?
Yep.
And as far as I see it, crypto is about empowering people with the tools to do that, not about trying to take profit from people who want to do that. So we want to give them those tools to be able to do that while also giving them an onboarding to introduce them to those tools in a very easy manner.
Very cool. Well, it is the idea of becoming your own bank and in control of your own finances. So this step up into the ecosystem and learning how to use the DEX is a very cool feature. Yeah,
that's what, and we're also working with a lady with a master's in pedagogy to make sure that the actual structure and the actual courses that we're organizing make sense. And we also want to we are actually going to implement a test and an exam at the end of each lesson set. So
yep, very good.
Everyone can enjoy that.
Yep.
But essentially it also means, and on top of that, so people who complete all of our courses, right? This isn't going to be available on launch, by the way. This is coming down the line. Unfortunately, not everything can be done instantly. But we would like to do something along the lines of, like, if you complete one of our courses, you would receive an NFT for having completed that course.
Yeah,
right. And then you can collect your NFTs for having completed your courses until eventually you get to the end where you can get the NFT diploma for having completed all the DeFi courses. Right. And that way we can create some kind of structure that actually motivates students to push their way through those courses, because that's going to be able to get them to get to the point where they are their own bank, exactly as you described.
Yeah.
Right. So we want to try and live out that philosophy of what crypto is aiming for.
Cool. Excellent. And the next part?
And the next part, just this very last part, this is our national market trust. Oh, international market trust. Sorry. We actually need to change that. That's anyway, that's a little what's it called? Misspelling. Now, this is essentially a platform that we're going to be building for those who don't even have the confidence to use crypto, put it onto a decentralized platform, and then put it into our auto harvester. Right? As I spoke with you in the last video, we're kind of designing something along the lines of a Raiz or Acrons or Spaceship. There's a lot of them for DeFi, where users would download an app, they would do incremental deposits, and then we would take that, DeFi it for them, and then transfer it back into fiat on their behalf. So that all they have to do is essentially log in, pick what risk level they want, and then let us manage that for them. Now, this is essentially just going to be building an app, a fiat versioned app for our auto harvester, because we're going to be using the people from here, taking that fiat, auto harvesting it for them, and then sending that 15% share through to our bar.
Cool.
Right? Now, this does require the Australian Financial Services license. So this one is the stuff that we're going to be working on starting in about 8 months to a year's time, when we've got this section of the ecosystem up and running completely.
Okay. So a little bit time to wait for that part of the system. And I believe in our last interview, you also mentioned that US citizens might be able to participate in that. But I think you might be a little bit far off from stepping into that.
And look, at the rate that the regulation is changing in America, I don't want to deign what's going to be the circumstance in a year's time.
Yep, very true.
So we'll wait and see at that point. And look, the very last one is this VyFinance, this backend that's also doing this little share. I'd like to describe that. This is referring to our extended ecosystem. So within our extended ecosystem, we want to have things such as an extended NFT ecosystem, where we're already starting to work with some artists, where we're implementing some NFT artwork into their stuff, and we're going to be giving them some kind of integration into our actual exchange, such as NFT staking, right? Another example that we would love to look at, and hopefully sooner rather than later, would be an NFT marketplace. So this here represents any extension that we were to make to that ecosystem in the coming future, and that extension there will also be, and this is what makes it the Vi ecosystem, right? If you're in the Vi ecosystem, part of those profits are being shared to the holders of VyFi.
Yeah.
Right.
So you mentioned just before that, I just wanted to retrace a little bit, the NFT staking. What is that term? I haven't heard of that before.
Oh, absolutely. So NFT staking would be where we would release a limited edition NFT, for example, right? As either a competition or as an auction, however you want to do it. And then holders of that NFT are able to stake that NFT into a farm, and it gives them some kind of boosting on the farm, such as an extra 2 to 5% APR, let's say.
Yep.
Right. So then that gives, one, a value to the NFT, and two, it gives a purpose for the users to seek out that NFT, because the value proposition now becomes you get boosted farm if you hold them.
Very cool. All right. Interesting.
Right? So
interesting
like
concept.
little fun mechanics like that are the kind of stuff that we want to be working with, and we're already developing the NFTs now. So we're already working at building those NFTs.
Okay, cool. All right. Looking forward to some of these features, especially that NFT staking. It's
should also be aware that's not going to be on launch. This is going to be all. This is all going to be happening over the next sort of year.
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of projects, and minimal viable products are going to be launched with Alonzo and smart contracts, whereas some of these deeper features will come along later in the year.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And the most important thing is that you just, particularly with something like Alonzo, which is a brand new mainnet that's never been tested before, you don't want to be setting yourself up for disaster in that you're putting yourself out into an environment that is unstable, right? Like if you throw yourself out into the environment before Web3 is functional, whilst there's still bugs in the actual mechanics of the blockchain, and then all of a sudden something goes wrong, and you've somehow managed to get liquidity drained from one of your liquidity pools, right? Which, let's be honest, it's happened. You can really shoot yourself in the foot before you start.
Yeah. Right.
So it really is a balancing act of when is it, because we're dealing with people's money, right? You're not dealing with, candy and gumdrops. So it's a really important question of, and that's something that we'll see as time gets closer. When is the point at which is the intersection between safe for our users versus optimal timing against our competitors? So it's because other competitors might not be as wanting to keep their users safe. I don't want to name names, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a race to the finish line safely.
Exactly. It's a real race to the finish line safely. It's like we're all doing a bag race, but also wearing all like full NFL gear. Yeah.
Just protect yourselves before you get into that line.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's a sum up of that's an overview, sorry, of our ecosystem as it's working on a broader view. Right. Okay. So people don't have to be scared. Just to sum it up, we've got a 2-layer decentralized ecosystem. The top layer is where we farm for you. The bottom layer is where you can farm for yourself. We've got a ladder that takes you between the layer where we do it for you and we teach you to do it for yourself. And then we'll have a fiat on-ramp for those that don't want to use crypto actively.
Brilliant. Now that makes it so much clearer and so much easier. And all we have to do is really just stake it at the bar and you can profit from all the rewards.
Stake it at the bar and profit from all of it. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm assuming that once you get your app and all that up and running, users will be able to log in, connect their wallets, stake it to the bar, and just
you're off and running.
That's it. That's brilliant. Easy.
Yeah, that's it. That's literally the game. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right.
Beautiful.
Okay. Thank you, Steve, for going through all of that.
No, Pete, thank you so much for your time and letting me talk about all that. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope that your users get a good understanding for how this all works. We're doing quite an original design here. This design has never been done before. I've made it up myself. Not made it up. It's not from scratch, of course. I've taken bits and pieces from across crypto. But it is definitely an original implementation, and we're really excited to see how it goes.
How far along are you in the implementation of the liquidity pools and the DEX itself? And
so
the auto harvester?
we've pretty much built the DEX.
Yep.
We haven't constructed the farms yet. That's what we're up to now. The bar should be finished, I would say, by next Tuesday, Wednesday. We've got a shell of the auto harvester on Solidity. We've got to convert that into Haskell so that we can have it on Cardano. So that, I would say, and then we have to train our neural net. That's a 3 to 4 month experience. So for the fully functional auto harvester, we're probably looking for somewhere between 3 and 6 months.
Yeah.
But we should be launching with a fully functional bar and DEX, with or soon after Alonso.
It's going to be a very interesting final quarter of the year, watching all of these platforms launch and trialing them out, one after another.
Absolutely, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're starting to see a couple of demos and showcases of the interfaces and stuff. So it's a very exciting point in time. And
actually, I would like to add to that. We just put up a demo of our back end of our exchanges and our bar working.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to we're putting together the UI now for it all. So hopefully within the next sort of 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to have a UI demo too. So.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, it's all really exciting.
I'll update this and put the links in the top right-hand corner there for everyone. So if you're watching this video a little bit later, you'll be able to click directly to those videos.
Beautiful,
and
thank you.
Watch them.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast.
Okay, so you should have a really good understanding of how VyFi works, the entire ecosystem. And don't forget to watch that interview if you haven't yet, to learn more about the project and its how some of the aspects work as well, especially some of the neural nets is quite interesting. Now, if you want to find out more about the project, have a look at the links in the description. You'll find it all there, or check out VyFi.io, where you can find the webpage of the project. All right. If you enjoy this content, please give us that thumbs up, click subscribe, hit the notification bell, work that YouTube algorithm for us. Till next time, bye.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debate.